Writing 102, there is a state requirement that all students do a researched argument. It doesn't have to be the only paper that they do in the class, but all students across all Writing 102 sections have to do this. And different faculty require different lengths, different sort of focuses, things like that. But for all students across all sections, there has to be research and there has to be an argument.
When I start teaching the research paper, I ask my students three questions. They're kind of analogies, and to find out where they are with research. And that is, writing a research paper is like, doing research is like, and reading research is like. And a lot of times students are not really happy about researching. So the hardest part of it is actually getting them to see that their researchers are ready, that they research all the time, whether it's for earbuds or a phone or whatever it is, they're constantly researching. And it's the same skills, basically.
I teach students and I encourage students to build curiosity, confidence, and experience by practicing a range of strategies for academic research and writing. So in terms of research, I want students to bring that curiosity to the questions they're asking about the subject or issue they're exploring. I encourage them to consult a wide range of sources to see how the questions are asked and answered in different places, Wikipedia, popular magazines, academic journals.
Well, we're looking at getting students to engage with already published texts. So the first thing I always do in my courses is to talk about what is that distinction between primary and secondary research and how sort of their understanding of research informs the context that we're in this particular writing class.
Students need to learn how to not just find appropriate materials for their papers, but they have to learn how to read them critically, how to evaluate them, and how to work them into an argument so that the evidence that they find from these materials is evidence to support their argument as opposed to just stringing together sources for the sources to be their argument.
I teach a business communications class, so there's a lot of teamwork. And when students go out to research their work, we do often work very closely with the librarian because we have such a variety of skill sets that come into the classroom for this course. So we've got to try and even the playing field as far as what's a credible source. How do you cite a source? That's a huge emphasis at the College of Business.
They definitely have sort of a poor understanding of the different types of sources that they're working with. They definitely have no understanding of who the writers are of these different sources. For example, what is the difference between a journalist who might write a piece for Scientific American and a biochemist who might write a piece for Scientific American?
Probably how to start. They don't understand. Lots of times they don't come up with good keywords. They don't really know what to search for. And sometimes just getting started is the hardest part. And they have to be willing to do. There's nothing wrong with starting with Wikipedia. You just don't end with Wikipedia. Find out what other people are saying. Find out what the terms are being used. And so finding the right terms and then making sure that you're taking notes, that you realize, oh, this is what they're calling it in the research that I'm finding.
It's the format of how do you do it. They want to just take a URL and put it in parentheses somewhere in the paragraph, not understanding the difference between a direct quote and a paraphrasing and that kind of, and when do you indent? A lot of this is really a lost world to many students. So the familiarity of doing it almost every semester is necessary. We'll introduce it freshmen, and then we find out they've completely forgotten it in our senior level course.
Everything. At the beginning of the semester, they struggle with everything. And what they struggle with the most, I would say, is just the amount of time that it takes to find appropriate sources.
I see my students struggle with identifying and using the right sources for their research. There's no doubt it takes a lot of time to go through information. And I think we all know how easy it is to go down rabbit holes. So managing time with research really matters. And I also find that students struggle with synthesizing material from multiple resources. So because I want students to be curious and because I want students to consult a range of sources, it's hard to know how to bring all of those sources together, rather than just like summarize individual texts.
A particular thing that is important to think about in my 102 classes, I know, is to think about how many sources you need in order to feel that you have some understanding or authority on a subject. Students are very quick to find one source that they regard as authoritative and never move beyond it. This is the source. I have resolved the issue. One person has said one thing.
So these skill sets, research skills that are required for the young today, and all of us actually, are not only applicable to the world of education, they're also applicable to people that are literally job seeking. I mean, when you think about it, if you haven't figured out how to set up a LinkedIn, how to network, or how to further expand on Glassdoor or some of the research that goes around even career hunting, this is something that is much more comfortable when you know all the various search engines that are out there.
Students who know how to work with the library resources and know how to integrate those resources and read and evaluate those resources, I think they have a leg up from other students in plain old ordinary English.
Finding good research shows that the student's interested, shows that they tried, and they're actually trying to answer the question that they're researching for. And they're important in all aspects of life. When you go on after college and a job or whatever they're going to do, it shows attention to detail. It's very important.
Obviously, these skills are important. I think everyone will answer this question the same way, thinking about the internet, the way that sources and information, we should say, show up in their feeds in different ways, and the way that they encounter text just because they show up to them, I think is really frustrating. And I think helping students understand that there's something really rewarding about feeling control over that understanding and control over that knowledge, I think is a really important thing. So getting students to not think about it as they've been doing the wrong thing or a negative thing, maybe, but think about the ways that you found something, you've encountered some information in the world that you think is really interesting. But now what is the step for you to gain control over that understanding in ways that are appropriate and ethical and meaningful?
Librarians are so helpful in guiding students to formulate the right questions to get them to where they can find their answers. So sometimes it's a matter of identifying a certain term or a certain kind of question, and the librarians will help students really understand how to make their searches efficient, productive. They know the resources that are available, and they are, they're truly a lifeline.
So I think the librarians are amazing, of course, but there aren't enough of them, and students don't understand that they can reach out to librarians. I know we've had this conversation many times, and I've sent many students to the North Reading Room and said, look, they have office hours, please go. But they don't get it.
We bring in an actual day of library workshop with our students. I do in all my classes. I'll be teaching 3 business communication sections. I've already asked Jennifer DeVito, our business librarian, to come in, and she's wonderful. We tag team each other. She plants the seeds, and I keep them watered throughout the semester and hope that when I pass the baton to the next instructor, which a lot are expecting these skills already, they don't want to teach them. So, that's hard on the students that haven't gotten the preparatory work.
The library is amazingly important, and it's one of the best resources on campus because they teach how to use the databases, but most important, I think, is how to do advanced searches. And that's what I've been noticing lately is the students who are able to use Boolean operators, the students who are able to combine terms and subtract terms are the ones who come up with the best research. And they're not out there struggling with, 10,000 hits on what they're trying to find there.
I feel like anything the library can do to help teach students that research isn't something that they just do for a particular paper, that they just do for a particular class, but that it's something that students just do as part of life. There's different types of research, and the library has so many different resources, and I don't think students are aware of probably half the resources that the library has.